Waiting for it. Okay. And we're live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 3 of Monday Money Talk with Mike. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about debt elimination. Debt elimination, ladies and gentlemen. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to the man of the hour, Mr. Michael Macklin.
What's going on, Jimmy? How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Thank you for coming back onto the show and sharing some of your expertise and knowledge. It's always great. Hopefully, this information will reach some ears that sorely need it. If I'm not mistaken, we discussed that you're going to talk about some debt elimination strategies. You want to go over some of those things? Brief overview of what you're going to be talking about in a second.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time tuning in, first and foremost, I want to thank Jimmy for this opportunity to, reach out to his audience to, discuss a very important matter. Money matters is something, a lot of people don't, get too deep into out of, maybe intimidation or, what have you. But what we all have to understand is, one of two things. One, it is our responsibility as adults to kind of understand, where our resources are coming from. If not for ourselves, for our children and our families, that we have to support. And two, you have to look at, we have to stop living for just today. You have to understand that there is a future. Individuals are living, much longer than, back in, our mom and dad's times where, different wars or whatever was going on, and we didn't have access to the same medicines or resources we have these days. So with that being said, being that you live longer now, it is definitely important that you live well, and part of living well is having your financial house in order. So with that being said, myself and Jimmy, we looked at debt elimination, one, because we had a poll that was taken, and the people said they wanted to, talk about debt elimination, which is a fantastic subject. But also, a big reason why I was, very swayed towards debt elimination myself is, because of the time of the year we're in right now, Christmas holidays, and a lot of people get themselves into financial woes at this time of year, and they're well intentioned. They want to, show their families that they love them. They want to, shower them with these wonderful gifts, and that's fantastic. However, you have to understand, okay, there is life after Christmas, and there is going to be consequences after Christmas. Okay, the things that you purchased, if you can't afford them, please believe that bill will be showing up more than likely January 1st or January 15th. So you must prepare for those things. And a lot of people that I talk to, they seem to, the biggest thing is they seem to feel like they don't have enough money, or the money just isn't where it needs to be. And the long and short of that is the amount of money you make isn't the problem. Is what you're doing with the money that you make. When you get into situations where, kind of give a brief overview before I really dig into things here. What you have to understand about debt and how it started to begin with is you got to look at how financial institutions almost lure you into a trap before you even start. So let's talk about that a little bit really quickly. Now, think about when you go out to purchase a home or you go out to purchase a car. When they look at your income, they look at your gross income, meaning before taxes. The problem with that is you don't take home. Let's say, Jimmy makes, $100,000 a year.
Yeah, I wish.
And so he goes into, the Mercedes dealership, and he says, hey, the Mercedes dealer says, okay, hey, Jimmy, I see you looking at, the CLS 500. Let's take a look at how much you're making. So, Jimmy brings in his LES or his pay stub, whatever. And, they look at is the gross. They say, oh, Jimmy, you make $100,000. Yeah, you in good shape, brother. But they don't look at the taxes. Now, taxes, the average person pays about a third of their check in taxes. So, out of that $100,000, about 30,000 of it is gone. in taxes. So realistically, your net, what you actually take home, is $70,000. But you're in a position where you're being given credit at the $100,000 level. So you're already playing a game of you're behind, and you're already overextending yourself. So that's the first thing that you got to understand about debt elimination, is you have to understand going into these financial situations, you have to understand how they're going to, basically try to upcharge you or have you, come at this higher level that you're just not at. You have to resist the temptation to, fall into that trap that the banks have. Because what happens is, again, you're at 100,000, but you only make 70,000. So how are you going to make up that $30,000? You have to borrow from the bank, and that's what they want. They're like, okay, boom, we got our customer. Now he's into us, for X amount. And now, because your lack of money, you are now owing money. You're in a position of debt right off the gate. So a lot of people say, okay, well, Mike, well, how do I even, get in a position where I have money, or, I'm in a position where I have my emergency fund, I have my, different things in place. And that money is actually, honestly speaking, that money is actually hiding in plain sight. First and foremost, what you want to do, the first thing you want to do, the easiest and most effective way to really kind of really start to eliminate debt,
Yeah.
you got to really take an intimate look at your finances. So it's just as simple as basically going onto your bank account and looking at what you're actually spending. And you got to find those, do I really need these numbers? I.e., let's say the person, a great example I've heard a lot of times is, the person that goes to Starbucks every day and says, I have to have a coffee every single day. Before I go to work, I got to get this coffee. Okay, so now the Starbucks coffee is, anywhere from $5 to $8 a day. So let's say you go there again, you go to work 5 days a week, you got to have this coffee, every morning. So you're looking at $40 a week. Now multiply that $40 by 4 weeks per month. That's $160. Now that $160 a month times 12, you're at about let me do the calculator real quick. I'm not smart. Not right. I'm not smart right now. What did I say? 160
Yeah,
times.
let's go with 160 times 12. Yeah.
So boom. So the person that tells me that they can't get an emergency fund, that $160 a month times 12 months is $1,920. So now imagine, instead of buying that Starbucks, you put that into a savings account. There is your emergency fund right there. So now when you go into the holiday season, Christmas, what have you, you now have that emergency fund in place to where you're not going into debt. That is one of the, that's kind of, I call it the Dave Ramsey way. You kind of, cut out some of those little baby expenses, but those things add up. Everybody feels like it has to be like this huge, like grandiose effort that you have to make in order to, save money. But realistically speaking, if you know where your money is going to begin with, you can start looking at that and as they say, trimming the fat. Okay, let's say those people who just have to have, this, the iPhone X or iPhone X, what is it, XS Max now or whatever like that. Okay, for like $1,500 now. And realistically speaking, how much more does it really do? Like, honestly speaking, I think the camera's a little bit better, a few little small things like that. But we're spending the extra, $500, $600. And, most people every year, they feel like they got to upgrade. Just imagine saving that money instead. Let's say that $500, you don't purchase that iPhone. That's $500. Let's say that's you and start investing that at an 8%, return on investment. And with the power of compounding, you're putting yourself in a position where that money starts to grow for you. And that's something we really need to understand. Now, that's the really simple kind of baby way to say, okay, let me, put a little money to the side. Because trust me when I tell you, 69% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in their savings account right now. So that small trick will put you ahead of a large portion of America. And that's where you want to be. You want to be in a position where so at least, you have $1,000 at least. And that's like the very least. And what that does again, it protects you because most people just reading this, I think earlier today, where essentially, people is basically explained that, we kind of operate on a system where we're one accident away from, poverty. So you can't for your car to break down. You can't afford for a tire to go flat because you don't have any money to fix that. You can't afford for, yourself to be sick a day. So you'll go into work sick because you're in a position, where you don't have the money to do that. And, these are all detrimental things. These are reasons we got to educate ourselves on that portion. Now, getting into the little less obvious way, but equally simple. Take a look at your W-4. As I've said before in a previous video with Jimmy, 80% of Americans don't even have their W-4 filled out correctly because, they'll go into their job and they'll work a job, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and never change that W-4. But if you read the top of the W-4, it clearly states that most people have it filled out incorrectly. And two, you will be better served going ahead and taking your money up front and using that money to eliminate debt or start your, emergency savings account instead of, waiting for the end of the year. Because let's face it, most people, okay, I'll use Christmas for example. Okay, you go out and you buy your kids, the Xbox or a new iPhone, what have you. Okay, so now you're in debt for $1,000. So now you get your tax refund, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna get my tax refund. I'm gonna pay off, this debt or whatever. But most people don't do that. They go buy something else. They go, okay, I'm gonna go buy another iPhone, or I'm gonna go, do whatever. So you end up basically shooting yourself in the foot twice. So what you will be better off doing is go ahead and fix your W-4. Understand your allowances.
You're not doing it with icon? I'm just focused on him right now.
Okay. Anyhow, so yeah, looking at that W-4.
I kicked it off and he's talking.
I'm tired. Look at your W-4, because the average person gets in a position where they get anywhere from, I've seen some people get as low as like $200 extra. I've seen people get as much as $1,100 extra. So now just imagine that, people. An extra, let's go on the high end and say you get an extra $1,100 every month. Okay, $1,100 times that 12 months. Again, you're looking at like what, $12,000-$13,000 almost. Now let's look at how you can use that now to attack your debt. This is a principle called debt stacking. So now again, let's say you have the $1,100, right? So now what you do is you start, writing down your bills. Okay, let's say your cable bill. Well, actually your big boy bills, like your house, your vehicle, student loans, things like that. Now, typically what most people do is they simply pay the minimum. So let's use a credit card, for instance. Let's say you have like $2,000 on your credit card and the minimum payment in most cases, like at the most $50. So what you do is you pay $50. But what you're not taking into account is, most of that money is going towards interest. It's not even going towards the principal. So you wonder why, that debt is taking years and years and years to pay off as opposed to just going on and knocking that out. So now let's say you fixed your W-4 and you now have an extra $1,100 in order to, attack debt. Let's say we're going to do that. So now let's say the bill again is like $2,000. So now what you do, instead of paying that $50 minimum payment, let's say you pay $1,150. Okay, so in less than 2 months now, that bill is now gone. Okay, where before, had you done the minimum payment, you probably would have been paying on that. At $50, you probably would have been paying on about 3 or 4 years, if not more. So now, that's strategy one. Now you've done that. What you want to start doing is you want to start turning that into cash flow. Okay, what cash flow is, again, is the money left over after all of your expenses. So now that you've paid off that credit card, now that $50 goes back into your cash flow. And then what you do is now you apply it to your next debt. And what you'll see yourself systematically doing is knocking out debt much more quickly, because that money that you previously didn't have because you didn't fill out your tax form correctly is now
Yeah.
being used to debt much more rapidly. This is a strategy I myself used, and it puts you
I
in a
don't even know.
position to where you actually know when you will be out of debt completely. That's the problem most people have. They have no idea when they will be out of debt. They just simply, kind of go through the motions. And what was taught to me fairly recently, I went to a business meeting on Saturday, out in Fayetteville, North Carolina, at the Bordeaux Library. Um,
When they will be
essentially, what
out
was
of debt. They
explained,
just like, kind of
and
go through the motions.
here, because I want to make sure I'm saying this properly.
That was me and you.
Okay, you basically get in a position where that's too funny. You have two objectives essentially in life. Your two objectives are, one, to fund your current lifestyle. Now, your current lifestyle is paid for by your labor, your work.
Okay.
Now, your future lifestyle is the second thing that you should be trying to fund. That's your second objective, to fund that future lifestyle. And how that is done is through investments. But most people can't fund their future lifestyle because they are not taking care of their current lifestyle, because they don't know how to attack that debt. So they're like, Mike, I don't have any money to save. But now with these two strategies I've just showed you, this is how you start to create that money in which you can now use towards saving for your future. And it doesn't have to be huge numbers at the beginning, like as little as, 25, $50 a check, $50 a month, going to the side. That thing starts to build up on you because of a thing called compounding. And that's the biggest thing I want everybody to kind of take from this conversation is, just like you gradually, get into debt, you can also gradually get out of debt. So with that, that's pretty much, the long and short. I kind of try to keep it simple this time and keep it short. But if anybody has like, questions or anything like that, leave them down in the comments. And, Jimmy and I will definitely, take this opportunity here now to kind of answer some questions you may have, or, different, there's other techniques obviously about tackling debt. I didn't want to get too technical with people because there's a strategy I use myself that's a bit more technical, and you have to really know what you're doing, for one, and two, you have to be very disciplined to implement it. So I didn't want to, come out the gate swinging with that tactic. However, for some of my people who may be more disciplined, may have a little bit more money to play with, I'd be more than happy to share, that third strategy. Obviously, Jimmy, you'll be privy to that, because obviously, I want to help you out as much as possible. I think we talked about it a little bit. I'm not sure. We definitely will. But
Yeah. We haven't talked about it yet, but yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much my spiel on that. Unless I have any questions, that's pretty much my piece there. Um, again, that's my debt elimination portion. Now, I'd also talk, a lot of other things, investing, fixing your credit, things like that. So, I also, I will eventually get to those things as well. Jimmy's been gracious enough to host me here. So we'll definitely get to that point, but right now, again, I wanted to keep it pretty simple, respect everybody's time here. We're looking at about 20 minutes in. I think the last show we did was about, what, hour and a half, something like
An
that.
hour. The first one was an hour and 45. Second
Right.
one was about an hour and change. This one's 20-minute mark. It's
Right.
kind of short, but it'll work. So as Michael said,
Sure.
we have we're open to questions, or Michael could keep talking.
I will.
But
Any knows I definitely like if I start talking about money, I'll talk your head off.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did, because I didn't know all the stuff that Mike knows, is when I started getting raises, I started living off my original paycheck. And then the extra money I started putting towards bills. I pretended like I never got a pay raise. And as I continue to get pay raises, even though that hasn't happened about a few years now, but when I was getting them, I just kept living off of one thing. And whatever that was. Let's say I was making $65,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
and they jumped me to 68, right? Then I was like, okay, I'm gonna live. I would take my last paycheck and look at what I would make after taxes,
Mm-hmm.
and then look at my new paycheck and look what I'm making after taxes. See what that difference was. It's not that much. It's maybe $50 to $100 a pay period or something like that, because that big money gets taxed taxed pretty much eats it away.
Sure.
But then I would take that money and then I'll say, okay, I got this extra money. Excuse me, I'm still a little sick. Take that extra money, put it towards a bill, and I would start paying bills off like that. And then if I get another pay raise, I'll do the same thing. Look at my original one. Look at my next one. See how much money was left over after taxes. Because, like you said, before taxes, it looks like you got a lot of money, a
Exactly.
lot of money to play with. But after taxes, like I said, is winds up being $100 to $200, if that, a pay period. It doesn't translate to a whole lot. But for me, since I didn't have techniques like what you're teaching people now, to me that was one of the ways I was able to do it. And I was like, you know what? If I live comfortable off with this paycheck, then I don't need to look at whatever comes after that. I don't need to look at it. I just need to put it towards bills,
Precisely.
and that helped me out a lot. So that's just a personal story for me, like which is kind of like what you were talking about with the debt stacking, except I wasn't disciplined enough to start putting money to the side. I just had to, say, okay, excuse me, learn to live with this money, and I did. And then
Right.
anything after that, I could use for whatever, pay bills or put in the bank or, you know, buy the kids what they needed and not be, completely broke. So that's another little tip for those of you that are out there. If you get incremental pay raises or whatever, and you need to pay off some bills, that's one way to do it. Like I said, it's not a lot of money. Those of you that were in the army like me and Mike, we know that's definitely not a lot of money. We was always hyped about that 10% pay increase.
Pay raise 2%. It was like
Yeah, say you're getting a 10% pay increase. It was like $1. Like,
right.
wait a minute.
Exactly. Well, wait a minute. What happened? And I got ate up in taxes, so we were like, well, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Right.
like,
And really quickly, what I kind of want to say as well, as far as debt goes, um, what a lot of people fail to realize is when they're looking at their debts, most people ignore the biggest debt that Americans have, and that's your taxes. You know, and this is why I preach a lot about why it's important to be a business owner, because of as a business open yourself up to tax advantages. If you really look at the tax law and understand the tax law for what it really is, the tax law is really all it really is an incentive program. It basically says, the government wants you to do certain things, so they start to create laws that incentivize people that do that. So, for instance, getting married, they give you, tax credit for that. Having children, purchasing a home, for business owners, because the reason business owners get so many tax deductions is because of how much they're doing for the economy that the government doesn't want to do. Business owners are creating jobs. Business owners are stimulating the economy. Business owners are, building, what have you. Especially like people like real estate investors and things like that. The government doesn't feel like building houses and things like that. So guess what they'll do? They say, if you do it, I'll incentivize you through, tax write-offs, different things like that. So now, again, this goes back to my point of, why it's so important to have a home-based business, because you wanna put yourself in position where your lifestyle starts to become a tax write-off. You're going to spend the money anyway, i.e., on your vehicle, i.e., on your home, i.e., on your children, i.e., on your light bill, internet bill, things like that.
Yeah. Hey,
But
Mike,
I'm sorry.
we got a question from Miss Thing. I was waiting for you to take a breath, you know. And she asked, "What are some strategies you use to stay disciplined in eliminating debt and not using that money to turn up or buy a new gadget? Do you have an accountability buddy?" So I'm gonna answer that one on my perspective. I'm
Okay.
gonna let Mike answer on his perspective. In my case, when I was eliminating debt, my then girlfriend slash fiance, now wife, was one of the people that helped me keep steady. She so it's good to have somebody, but have a buddy that is disciplined as well, that already has gone through this and has established themselves. That helps a lot. All right, Mike.
All right. That's an excellent point. I mean, this it's much like, working out. I mean, it's a lot better when you have, a buddy to push you or whatever the case may be. Excuse me. Kind of me personally, kind of the school of thought I go into, when it comes to, keeping the discipline to do these things, is people have to stop looking at as money simply as income. They need to start looking at cash flow. And what cash flow versus income. Income is just, again, it's just money. Now, cash flow is time. Okay. So let me kind of explain what I mean by that. Okay. Let's say Jimmy's a millionaire. He makes $1 million a year,
I
but
wish.
he has $2 million in expenses. So essentially, Jimmy can only live for 6 months on his money. Now, let's say me, I only make 50,000 a year, but I only have 25,000 in expenses. I, in turn, can live 2 years off of my money. So now I have more time to do what I need to do. Let's say, you know, something bad happens to me, i.e., my boss don't like how I look today, and he says, "You know what, you fired, Mike." Okay, it's not gonna hurt me as bad as if Jimmy's boss says, "Hey, Jimmy, you done, buddy. Now that $2 million debt that you have, how are you going to pay that? You more than likely probably going to jump off a bridge." But Mike on the other hand is like, "All right, well, yes, I'll just have to figure something else out." But I have more time to do that, and that's what people need to start looking at. Okay, the value of your time. The ability to have more time to do what you need to do. You can make a whole lot of money, but if you don't know what to do with it, or if you got more going out than you got coming in, again, your time is not yours. Your time belongs to someone else. So, you're at the mercies of, that situation. Now, again, and that's what I look at. I look at, okay, at some point, I'm going to want to come out of the workforce. Okay. And I can't do that if, as Miss Thing says, if I'm just turning up all the time. You have to have a strategy. Okay, strategy beats brute force at every sense of the word. If you understand what you need to do versus just trying to force your way into something, you'll be in a much better position. You'll be able to plan out, and as you see that progress, it will motivate you more to continue to go. Those little small victories. Get those small victories. Get the $1,000 in your emergency fund, and then migrate that 3,000 now into a money market account, and then migrate that into your 6 to 12 months of expenses, and you starting to buy back your freedom. Essentially, you're buying time, and that's what the wealthy do. The wealthy, they operate on time. They don't operate on money, because their time will start making them money. Okay, versus us just going in, punching in the clock. Basically our labor is making money. versus us putting ourselves in a position where, again, our labor is getting us money, and that money is then buying us time. And so to put that into perspective, this is how I'm able to say, you know what? Yes, the Apple Watch or the iPhone XR, I think is the newest one that's out. Yeah, it looks awesome. However, is this phone worth, extra 2, 3, 4 months of my time? And in most cases, the answer to that is absolutely not. I would much rather, get closer towards my goal of freedom versus, buying this watch now or buying this phone now. I will be in a position very shortly to where I can buy whatever the heck I want to, because of my assets will start, paying for my life expenses. And that's the kind of the system we need to get on. It's called the wealth principle. I said it a little bit earlier in my video this morning. It's a very simple principle. It's called cash, asset, cash. So essentially what you're doing is you make a small investment and you start purchasing assets, which are things that will make you money versus things that take money out of your pocket. That's a liability. Okay. So now that asset now is creating cash, and this cash is being created while you sleep or, without your effort. So now again, you're getting your time back because the little bit of effort you put in, the cash you invested at the beginning to purchase that asset is now, replacing that money that you had to go out there and work for. So this is the principle the wealthy live off of. And you don't believe it? Look at it from this standpoint. A wealthy person or a business owner, or let's just say, for instance, your boss, the owner of, the company you work for, the owner of your company, he puts cash out there, aka your check, your income. That's the investment he's making, okay, of cash. And he's purchasing an asset, and the asset is you. You're going out giving your time and your effort in order to, make the company profit, or, make your boss profit, whatever the case may be. And now the profit that comes into the company is the boss's cash. So you have basically become your boss's asset. And that's how the wealthy operate. They leverage your time in order to make them rich and give them more time. So instead, we need to start being more on that mindset or that, way of operating. It's a very simple system. Cash, asset, cash. If you learn that system, you will be definitely in a much better position. And these decisions on whether or not to purchase, as again, as Miss Thing said, turning up, it won't be worth the investment anymore. I'm like, okay, this isn't making me any money by going out here, popping bottles, going out here, renting Ferraris or whatever the case may be. But however, if let's say I go out here and, I buy a piece of property and, somebody now lives in that, my cash has just now bought an asset that's now making me money, and I didn't have to work for it. This is how the wealthy work, people. And this is how, I hope you, as you kind of, learn more and see more of what myself and Jimmy are putting out there, that you kind of shift your mindset, because that's where it's going to start. You have to shift your mindset from the employee mindset to the boss mindset. You got to understand that's how the boss is making money. You can't be mad at the boss for, utilizing the American system. He's capitalizing on a system, on opportunity. We all are within our powers to do that. And, hopefully, you guys continue to watch things like this and you're inspired to do the same.
All right. Got another question. First, we got a comment from Linda Wesley. She says that this is a perfect timing for such an interesting discussion at the end of 2018. Thank you, Linda. Mrs. Ortiz asks, which will give you a better return, interest, a money market account, or CD, or does it matter?
It depends. What I would tell you, what the thing with CDs is, what you have to be careful about with CDs is you're locked into those CDs for X amount of time. Now, there's ways to get into kind of like shorter term CDs. And I think it's called like ladder technique, where you start to kind of, after a year is over, you can kind of jump into a higher one and kind of stack it that way. But most of these accounts, they're under a certain asset class. And basically what you're looking at is liquidity, or basically how quickly you can get your money back. So like things like savings accounts, money market accounts, CDs, um, CDs being the one that are less liquid. You're not going to make that much interest because one, it's not a big risk, and two, you can get that money back really quickly. So the bank isn't going to incentivize you on something that you can take back out really quickly. They want you to keep that money in that vested in there, which is why CDs, they'll probably pay you a bit more, but again, like none of those, honestly speaking, are the best, um, other than for emergency purposes. Um, so I look more at things like, again, you want to look at things like um, stocks. Honestly, that's kind of like better places to put your money because you're making more of a return. I mean, it's a little bit more risky, but again, you're making a better return on that. And stocks aren't as intimidating as people think. You just have to understand the terms and the principles behind what's going on to make better informed decisions.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, did that answer your questions? Okay, well, there's always a little bit of a delay, so
Cash, asset, cash, people.
yeah. And with all that being said, though, like I said, there's definitely ways to go about these kind of things. Ms.
Absolutely.
Ortiz says awesome things. Thank you for joining us. And for those of you that may have not already, please hit that thumbs up button. That's the like button. That helps us out a lot. It helps Mike a lot as well because that lets him know, he can continue to come back and share some of this knowledge. All of Mike's information is in the description, by the way, his email address and his sites. So you're more than welcome to go browse those at your leisure. But for me, but for analytics purpose, if you share this video, if you like it, it helps me out a lot, helps Mike out a lot, because then he knows he can come back and we know we can continue to give this information.
Absolutely.
Sounds like an out of sight type investment. What are some top investments that may be recommended?
What was the person mean from like a stock standpoint or what?
I don't know. Ms. Linda Wesley says sounds like an out of sight type investment. What are some top investment that may be recommended or that are recommended?
Well,
Ms.
I'll say this to answer that question. Typically, what I teach is what you want to do first is you want to kind of lay your foundation. You want to lay your groundwork first. So you have to start buying back your time. That's the first thing you need to do. So some of the easiest things to kind of start getting involved in, one, what I would tell you, the first thing, first and foremost, what you want to do is you want to take a look at your W-4 for you people that are employed. You want to take a look at that because again, for most people, anywhere from $200,000 is sitting there. Now, what you want to do with that money, once you take advantage of that, again, you want to start your savings. Okay, you gotta establish your emergency first. Okay, you gotta cover those uh-oh moments because those happen all the time. And what that does is it gives you some of your time back. Because let's say you catch a flat tire, but you have an emergency fund set to the side. Instead of you saying, "Oh gosh, I have to take off work or whatever the case may be," for that, you have those funds in place and you don't put yourself into debt. So you go ahead and knock that out. So what I would first recommend is getting those emergency funds in place. Okay. The next thing you want to do is you want to do one of the easier things, and that's look at either your 401k or TSP or IRA. Okay, these are fairly safe investments, and those are kind of a long-term strategy investment. That's what you want to put in your head first and foremost. Investing is a long-term strategy. If you think you're gonna come into the investing world, and on Monday you put $40 in there, and on Wednesday you're gonna have 4 million, you're very sadly mistaking yourself, and you're gonna put yourself in a position where you don't feel like it's worth it. But if you understand that investing is a long-term game, meaning historically, you're going to come out better investing. Where you're getting upwards of 10%, 15%, 20% return on your investment, properly invested. So you want to play the long game with that. So those are kind of like little quick hits, quick little investments, I would say. Your 401k, your emergency fund, things like that. Because again, you're buying time at that point. You're, kind of softening life's blow, for lack of a better term, and you're able now to knock out debt and create more cash flow so that you can invest more. Because again, you got to attack those two obstacles, those two objectives in your life. And one, you got to be able to pay for your current lifestyle, and two, you need to be able to fund your future. Again, it's the cash asset cash. You got to have that cash available to buy those investments, to start making those dividends. And plus, those things are tax less anyway. Once you start making money on money, it's tax less, which in turn is making you money. So long and short, that's where kind of I would start.
They're asking, what's your view on Bitcoin? Is that a good strategy?
I don't understand enough about Bitcoin right now. I wouldn't touch it, honestly speaking. It's so volatile to me. I wouldn't mess with it right now. I probably need to educate myself more on it. I mean, I heard some people say it's pretty awesome, but I mean, based off of what I've seen so far, like the volatility of it, you really, really want to educate yourself heavily on that. Now, do I see potential in it? Sure. Just because of the possible security of these bitcoins or whatever. Maybe it's like a better way of securing money. I think I heard like there's some kind of like encryption or whatever they do with the thing. That again, that's kind of like outside of my realm of knowledge. But I personally I kind of go with the school of thought of Warren Buffett when it comes to stuff like this, and that is, if you don't understand something, don't invest in it, because you'll end up losing a lot of money. Now, if it's something you understand and you see long term is something that's going to outlast, whatever, then yeah, absolutely go for it. But if it's something that you don't see, doing well, you don't understand it well enough, I would advise against it, because again, the stock market is very volatile and you can lose your money very, very quickly. And if you don't understand it, just as quick as you put that money in there, your money will be gone.
Yeah. So she says, appreciate your honesty. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Apparently, I was having mic issues. I had two mics turned on at the same time.
Multitasking, I guess.
I don't know. Sometimes I got to look at the settings before and I realized that both the mics, the laptop mic and my boom mic, were both on. So that might have caused some confusion earlier during the broadcast, and I apologize for the inconvenience.
Okay, we got anything else?
I don't see any more questions. I'll give it a couple of seconds, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any more questions, now is the time. We'll give you about 15 to 20 seconds for the delay to catch up. And if not, we'll start saying our goodbyes. Because, there's always a little bit of a lag between. I put it on low latency, but still, it's supposed to be a new setting where it allows the slowest latency so we can see everything that's going on in the chat. Or the chat interaction should be almost real time, but it has not been. Okay, so I'm going to say that nobody has any other questions. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again. Thank you for joining us for episode 3 of Monday Money Talk with Mike. And today's topic was debt elimination. I hope that you were able to glean something from this stream. The other two streams that we've done will be at the end of this video. It's is creating into a playlist. So I've created a playlist for Money Mike. If you don't see it at the end of the video, just go to my site and look for Money Mike. All 3 videos will be in a playlist for your convenience. It'll be all 3 topics. Also, if y'all have any other subjects that you want us to cover, leave it in the comments section, because obviously in the chat it's going to be too late. Mike, do you have any last words that you wish to say before we depart?
Yes, really quickly. I want to add that I actually have a debt elimination software in which individuals can reach out, and it is something that you purchase as a businessman. I obviously have to make profit in order for me to continue to do what I do. So it's very inexpensive. I think it's like $10 a month. You basically it not only does it show you how to eliminate debt, but it also teaches you about it basically develops you a roadmap to retirement. Let's say you want to retire in 10 years. It will basically essentially act as a financial advisor in a box. If you just go to my site, which is in the comments, and there's a video that you can kind of take a look at. It talks about a little bit of what I do, and that's one of the things that are offered in the program in which I put out there for the people. So if you're really serious about getting your finances in order, if you're in a situation where as I like to say, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you're ready to do something about it, by all means, hey, reach out to me. I'll lock arms with you, kind of walk you through this thing, get you financially educated, and get you in a position where hey, you can also become a money mic and be teaching the people as I am. Again, I love what I do. I enjoy it very much. I find it to be a huge blessing to be able to do things like this with Jimmy, and get out to the people and kind of give back to the people. The knowledge that I've gained over the years. I've gosh, I've went through a lot of money gaining this knowledge. However, I wouldn't change anything for the world. But what I do want to do is, get people ahead of this to where they don't have to lose the kind of money I lost to gain this knowledge. So again, check out my site. Get you got any questions, by all means, reach out to me. Be more than happy to help you. And to your financial success, people, I wish you the best. Happy holidays to everybody. God bless you all.
And at that point being said, remember that Mike's email is listed in the description. If you need to reach out to Mike on a personal level, do not be afraid to do so. We sincerely thank you for joining us tonight. Sharing your time and your attention with us is very, very important to us. We are glad that you were able to spend some time with us. We're glad that you're able to take something away from this, and we hope that you can put this to practice. And we all bless you. I wish you a blessed evening and a good night.